So I'm going to go with him. But I definitely agree with you, Hammer. Matt Rao will win next year's Rising Star by that.
Well,
I'd be putting
There's
your
a shout for the Brownlow.
he could win the Brownlow too. I'd be putting your life savings on Rao to win the Rising Star next year.
Look, it is obviously a deciding factor, but I think it should be toned down a touch, but it is definitely a factor to include them in there. The fact that they've contributed to their team's success. So when you look at it like that, it obviously makes a lot of sense. But to snub a couple of players based on their team's success when it's pretty obvious they've done their best to get them as far as they've come. I think it's pretty stiff.
One of the forward pockets, you boys won't cop this. It's extremely biased, but I've gone with Robbie.
All right, before we get started, I'd like to make a formal apology to all forwards in the league.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, the ball is close! He's given him! He's given him! Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 47 of the show. Welcome to the new listeners and welcome to the old listeners alike. Today we're joined by the three AFL usuals. Brody, welcome back, mate. How are you?
Very good, thanks, mate. Glad to be here.
Rowie?
I'm good, mate. It's the best September I've ever experienced, well, at least in the last 10 years, so good, mate.
And Pilch, how are you, mate?
Yeah, same with Rowie. Stoked with my team's position, and yep.
Yeah, I'm wearing Port Adelaide gear. To those watching on YouTube, they can see that. But I'll be honest, I'm kind of just taking the piss here. I think I've watched a total of like 5 Port games this season, so not claiming to be a fan at all. But I've got the gear, so why not wear it? So today we had a mid-season kind of episode similar to this, but just on the eve of finals. So we've obviously got the bye around this weekend, and then finals commence the following weekend. And all the awards, barring the Brownlow, are announced this week, I believe. I don't know about the Rising Star when that is announced, but I think the All-Australian is coming out in the next couple of days. So we thought we'd join in on the fun and we'd discuss some of the awards ourselves. So we're going to roll through the Coach of the Year, the Rising Star, our All-Australian sides, and a Brownlow medalist. In the next few weeks, I think we're going to do an episode reviewing the teams. Well, I haven't told you guys this, so I'm just dropping this on air. But I'm planning to do an episode where we review the teams who missed out on finals, their seasons, and then after finals, we'll talk about the teams who made finals, because obviously you can't really review their season until it's finished. But I reckon we just start with not the most boring one, but probably the least spicy one. Coach of the Year. We'll start with you, Broadbent. Yeah, I feel like you fancy yourself as a bit of a footy coach. So we'll go. Which one of your contemporaries did you rate this year?
I had 3, but I reckon you guys have going to say 2 of them based off the teams you support. So I'll go with Justin Longmuir from Freo as a bit of a smoky. I sort of did it like what was expectations versus reality for the team. And I think no one expected Freo to be as promising as they were this season. They seem to be playing for him. They've got a good game plan, and I reckon Freo have a good chance of making the 8 next year. They've been big improvers. So, yeah, Justin Longmuir for me is my Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I had him written down similar to you as a smoky. Probably not the number one man, but, well, I don't remember where we were predicting them to come, but I think we were all pretty low on them, like bottom 3 or something like that. So, yeah, pretty impressive what he did. Rowie, who are you going with for Coach of the Year?
Well, I'm going to trump you. Brody, I've got 4 coaches written down. I had Longmuir at second. I've got Kenny Hinkley at 1. I know Pilch probably want to touch on him, so I just think I've got him in 1 quickly because I think this was a do or die year for Hinkley. If he didn't make finals, he was gone. And obviously he hasn't just done that. He hasn't just made the top 4. He's actually got his side to the top of the table. So obviously they've been one of the most promising teams of the year, and obviously a massive contender for the flag. I think Stewie Dew as well has just absolutely turned around Gold Coast this year. Just really blooded a lot of their young players and unearthed a lot of talent. And I think 12 months ago, we wouldn't be as optimistic about Gold Coast as we are now. But I think he's definitely in for a shout as well. And Brett Run. But I'm not going to
there it is.
piss you guys off if I rant and rave about him for half an hour. But yeah.
Pilch.
Yep. One name, the great man, Kenny Hinkley. As Rowie said, do or die. His last 2 or 3 years, he's been copping a lot of hate from a lot of Port fans. Not myself. I've always backed him. But those haters have been very quiet this year as he's finally strung together a consistent game plan, playing good, exciting footy, Richmond-esque, in my opinion. And, yeah, he's minor premiership. So he's definitely my coach of the year.
Yeah, I think Kenny Hinkley is the number one. And if there, I think there is an award at the Coaches Association or something, and I think he would win it. But yeah, you've mentioned all the blokes I reckon are worth mentioning. This is a rogue one. I'll just mention this. This is like the bottom of my list, but Damien Hardwick, I think they've dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of off-field drama with, some of the players not wanting to go up to the hub, and then they've had some of the off-field stuff recently with breaking the COVID protocols. And I think on the field, they were slow to get out of the blocks, which a lot of the times the defending premiers are. But I think he's got them, roaring for finals. And I think a lot of people will have them as the favourites going into finals. And he's done that in you couldn't have much more of an interrupted season than Richmond has this year. So I think Hardwick's done pretty well. I know the system's all in place given the fact that they've won 2 premierships in 3 seasons, but I think what he's done on the field's been pretty decent. But yeah, we've pretty much named half the league's coaches there, but I think all good shouts. But yeah, I'd probably back in Kenny as well. Like Pilch was saying, I was probably one of the people who not sure how he wasn't sacked last year. But I was saying to Pilch the other day, it seems to be a bit of a trend in the AFL. Buckley did it the other year, then Hardwick, where the coaches are just on the verge of getting sacked, and then it just clicks one year, and they just jump from 10th to top 4, and all of a sudden that coach is praised as a legend. So fair play to the board, I guess, for sticking with him, and similar to Richmond and Collingwood in previous years. Rising Star, I reckon we do that next, and then roll into our All Australians, and we'll finish with the big Brownlow. Rising Star. So I'm just a bit of a forward. I have my Brownlow medal thing that I've been doing all year, where I do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for every single game match. And I thought I may as well just use this for the awards we're doing today, because I'm not going to use it for anything else, and I've been spending a lot of time on it. So I'm going to do it for the Rising Star, and because I've done that, I've actually come up with a pretty controversial result. I'm sure you guys probably aren't shocked, but Matt Rowell has finished the season with the most votes for me out of all the Rising Stars, and I'm actually going to pick him. I think he's still eligible for next season's because he only played a handful of games, but in those handful of games, he got 8 votes for me, and I actually think that's a lot less votes than most people would have him getting. But yeah, I'll let you guys talk about the other dudes, because I'm sure you're not going to back in Rowell. But Pilch, who are you liking for the Rising Star?
I've actually gone with Noah Anderson over Caleb Sarong. I just think he's definitely stepped up in the second half of the year like Sarong, but I just think he's a little bit more versatile, and he's probably a little bit more important to his team, seeing as though Gold Coast are a worse team. So carries a bit more of a workload than Sarong does. So I've gone him.
Rowie?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very tight between Anderson and Sarong. I think both had about 3 to 4 massive games, 110 plus ranking points each. And we're both pretty consistent, particularly Anderson throughout the end of the year. I might just have Anderson pipping Sarong. He did also play the whole season. Sarong debuted, I think, round 5 or something, 6. So I do think Anderson's a bit more versatile. They've thrown him into the middle when they needed to, and also he's primarily on the wing for most of the season. I've got Anderson pipping Sarong, but obviously both going to be quality players.
Brody?
Well, they're definitely the two, but I think Sarong gets it for me. He's probably played more like in the middle where the contest is won. And I reckon stats and possessions and the way he attacks the footy is probably a little bit better than Anderson. Anderson's probably a bit more outside, but Strong already looks like he could be, a bull in the middle. So I'm going to go with him. But I definitely agree with you, Hammer. Matt Rao will win next year's not Brownlow, Rising Star by
We'll
that.
go next
Well,
I'd be putting
There's a
your
shout
life
for the Brownlow.
on. Yeah, he could win the Brownlow too. I'd be putting your life savings on Rao to win the Rising
yeah.
Star next year. It would be.
Well, he could get injured again. You never know.
Oh,
Maybe not
let's hope
completely
not.
the life
We need
savings.
to see good players play. So hopefully he's all good and he'll be. We could finish top 5 or 10 in the Brownlow. Why not?
Yeah. I was actually thinking about that. Surely, if he's more than like $1.10 in the Rising Star odds next year, that's an absolute steal. That's probably one of the biggest sure bets of all time in footy. But just pitching in on that Anderson Sarong debate. Not that my Brownlow system's the be all and end all, but Anderson was above Sarong for me. So I had Rowell getting 8 votes, Anderson getting 6, and Sarong got 4. And also, I think if I extended it, so I had 5 people getting votes each game. I think if it was about 7, I think Anderson would have got a ton load more of votes. There was a lot of times where he just missed out on the 1 vote. He was like there or thereabouts. But yeah, Sarong, I guess you could argue he's dealing with a few better players in his team that would take votes away from him in a voting type system. But I think they're the 2 standouts. I don't think anyone else polled more than once out of the Rising Stars, even like Rankin and stuff. I think he only polled once. So yeah, I think it's definitely Anderson v Sarong. And then that just moves us into our All Australian. I think we need to set this up a bit better than we did last time. We got a bit confused with the way we were like delivering it. So I reckon we go back 6. Then we go like, our middle 6. So our 3 across the middle, then the ruckman and the 2 followers. And then last we'll say our 6 forwards, and then we'll talk about the bench at the end. So starting with the 6 backmen, Brody, who have you got in the backs in your All Australian team?
Well, I actually found the back line probably the hardest to pick out of all of them because there's actually been a lot of, especially key position backs this year. There's been a lot of good ones. So this was difficult for me. But back pocket, I had Maynard. He's been super consistent and reliable all year. He can like shut down the small forward. So he was a lock for me. Harris Andrews is full back. Don't think much needs to be said about him. Probably the best key defender in the competition at the moment. I chucked in Darcy Moore in the back pocket. I know it's a bit controversial, but I had to have 3 tall backs. I couldn't leave one of them out, so I put him in. Then I got Luke Ryan from Freo on a flank. Great intercept marker. Been a really good player this year. Much improved for Freo. Then I've chucked my boy Wiedering at centre half back. He's been impenetrable this year. I know he's not very flashy as a Darcy Moore or something like that, but he gets the job done week in, week out. And he's been a really big improver for Carlton, and he'll be a gun defender for 10 years to come. And I've got the wee man, Caleb Daniel, on my other half-back flank. Has to be the best kick in the competition. I don't know if you can name another person who is so clean and, can hit targets off both left and right foot. And I needed someone in my back line to take the kick outs and deliver the ball well and be a bit more aggressive. Yeah, that's my back 6.
Rowie, who have you got in your back 6?
It's pretty similar. Got a couple of changes. I've got Luke Ryan starting the first back pocket. Roy touched him. He's just an absolute rock for the Dockers. Harris Andrews full back. Enough said there. And then a man that also is in Brody's back pocket that maybe shouldn't be, but given the need to have 3 key defenders, I've got Darcy Moore in there. Just ranging in around as a third tall, just taking clunks left, right, and centre. Back flankers, Caleb Daniel, obviously, huge part to the Dog system, just clean ball user out of the back. Jordan Ridley has also made it onto my other flank, obviously won Essendon's best and fairest. He was probably one of their only few shining lights of the year. And then a man that has not made even the squad, a centre half back in Stephen May. Obviously one of the best lockdown defenders, kept a lot of his opponents to 2 goals or less throughout the year. So yeah, he's made my centre half back position. I've snubbed Wiedering because he's not impenetrable. Max King kicked a couple on him in his fifth game, so I'll rebut you there, Brody. But that's my pitch.
Pilch, who are you going with?
Yeah, I found that this year's class had quite a strong defensive, like a lot of good defenders from this year. But I've gone Luke Ryan back pocket, pretty obvious. Andrews fullback, and then the one bloke who, in my opinion, can contest Daniel for the best kick. No one really gives him credit for it, but Jake Lloyd, I don't think I've ever seen him miss a target coming out of the back 50. And he's another one that I thought was pretty stiff not to make the squad. And then half back line, Maynard. I've come around to Wiedering at centre half back because you hear all these stats of him like having like 50 balls like kicked to him and his opponent, and he like lost like 2 of them or something like that. And Carlton concede a lot more inside 50s than, you know, Collingwood with Darcy Moore and stuff. So he's got a much harder job back there. And then finally, Jordan Ridley. I had Haynes there until the final 2 weeks where he didn't get a touch. So Ridley's come in.
Just a quick segue before I get into my back six. I don't know if you saw my Instagram story today, but the Jake Lloyd thing just triggered it in my head. Brody, do you think your team's success should be taken into account when picking the All-Australian team? Because I'd say that's probably a big factor for when considering a Jake Lloyd type in a bottom 4 team.
Yeah, I do think it does. I mean, Jake Lloyd's a hard one. I know he uses the ball really well, but I don't know if he can really hurt you. Like, a lot of his kicks are little chip sideways. You know, he'll take the back pocket and chip it 20 metres to someone. You know, so I don't think he really damages you. But definitely, well, in previous years, the selectors of the actual team always go for the teams that are higher up. So, yeah, I think if it's sort of line ball between 2 players, I think you usually take the one in the more successful team. Yeah.
Yeah, Rowie, do you agree with that system, or do you reckon it should just be a player v player, like on merit sort of situation?
I do believe with it. I just think at times it can be used too extremely. I think there are a couple of cases in the All-Australian selections that sort of exemplified that. I think a few players.
Others.
Yeah, I wasn't going to name 1 or 2 poor players, but I just think it might be. Look, it is obviously a deciding factor, but I think it should be toned down a touch, but it is definitely a factor to include them in there. The fact that they've contributed to their team's success. So when you look at it like that, it obviously makes a lot of sense. But to snub a couple of players based on their team's success when it's pretty obvious they've done their best to get them as far as they've come. I think it's pretty stiff.
Yeah. All right, I'll roll into my back six. I'll get the questions going every now and then, so we're not just rolling out names. So I've done my All-Australian team, as I mentioned before, on Brownlow, so there's some big flaws with it, because obviously if you're on a bad team, you're kind of more likely to get votes if you stand out. But my back pockets are Luke Ryan, and I don't think this guy's even ever talked about, but Jaden Short. Me and Pilch, we realised maybe halfway through the year there was a bit of a flaw with the algorithm. It favoured people who took like the kickouts. Like, I know Tom Stewart absolutely killed it with this system, because he would take a kick out. Every kick out was a rebound 50 and it would go 70 meters. So it was like bulk meters gained, rebound 50s, effective kicks. So we did realize there was a bit of a flaw there in my system. But so I've got Ryan and Short in the back pockets. And then I've got Robbie Tarrant actually down at fullback. I was going to go, he was kind of lower down in my votes, but I didn't really want to pick like 3 tall intercepting backs. I thought I should have like a lockdown guy. So he was my highest voter in that kind of category. And then across the half back line, I've got Maynard, Haynes, and Ridley. So yeah, I don't know if having only really one proper defender is fair, but oh well, everyone else can call. Ryan does a little bit of defending. Haynes can probably like do a job as a spare almost, but yeah, I don't know.
I think Ryan's one-on-one capabilities are pretty underrated. Like he often plays on the main tool of the other team, whereas Haynes and Ridley kind of play spare.
Yeah. And then in terms of the defenders who just missed out for me, Sicily is worth a shout out. I was almost close to having him, but I thought it was a bit ridiculous given he only played like half the season. But he was right up there for my Brownlow, full stop, let alone the All-Australian team. So, I thought he was worth a shout out. And then, Tommy Stewart, wanted to get him in there, but couldn't have. I didn't feel like he was good enough to be like my actual lockdown defender. All right, the middle six, Pilch, who are you going with here?
Yep, I'll start with the centre line. So I've got Zach Merritt on one wing. I thought he was a very stiff emission from the squad because his stats were unbelievable, and I think he was like top 6 or top 8 for coaches' votes or something like that as well. So him on. I think he was probably the best winger in the season, and then centre Neil, and on the other wing, I wanted to have 2 wingers, but the midfielders were just too good this year. So I've gone Taylor Adams on the other wing. I think he was Collingwood's best midfielder this season, and another one that kind of went under the radar a bit. And then followers, Gorney over Nick Nat. I had Nick Nat last time, but I think Gorney just... He almost brings what Nick Nat does with the hit-outs, but around the ground, he's just 10 times as good as Nick Nat is. So I've gone with him. And then Boak and Steele, 2 pretty obvious ones to close out the guts.
Yeah, good choices. Rowie?
I've gone for 1 wingman and then 2 traditional mids across the first 3. I've gone Sam Menegola on 1 wing. I think he's had a really underrated year. He's a gut runner as well. You see him in the D50 and then 30 seconds later, Geelong going forward and he's lining up for a goal. So he's also had a couple of massive games. I think that's one thing that selectors need to take into consideration, that the blokes that have consistent years with the odd breakout game should definitely be recognised over ones that have just consistent seasons all around. We've got Lachie Neale, obviously in the centre, not much of a surprise there. And I've got this I guess brings upon the topic before when you said the success sort of players a contributing factor to the All-Australians. So I've got McRae over Zach Merritt. It was literally down to those 2. I've gone McRae just because I think it's just week in, week out. He's always just getting tons of the footy. Helps complement players like Bont and stuff who don't get much, but obviously impacted a lot more. I think it's just vital to their game plan. Across the next 3, I've got Nat Nui in the ruck. Gorney is coming, don't worry. I've got Oak and Steele, and I think they'll be 2nd and 3rd in the Brownlow. So pretty obvious midfield choices there, I think.
Brody, finish us off, mate.
Well, the 3 on ballers I had the same: Boak, Steele, and Neil. I think everyone that's pretty 100% accurate on that one. They've clearly been the 3 best on ballers this season. My ruckman is Nat Nui. I can't believe you went gone. I just reckon Nat Nui's clearly the most... I know he doesn't get as much of the ball as some of the other ruckmen, but the way he sets up his midfielders, and that's primarily the number 1 job of the ruckman, he's clearly the best in the competition. So I had to have him. And then I'm probably a bit stubborn with wingers in the All-Australian team. Like, I always have to have 2 genuine wingmen because it's like sort of a specialised role. You know, they have to keep their width all the time and be like the loop man in defence and help out. So I had Menegola on 1 wing, same as you, Rowie. And I wasn't sure about this. I could have put McRae, but McRae sort of plays a bit wing and in the middle. So I had Gaff on my other wing. He's not ultra damaging, but he's super consistent, gets a lot of the ball. Nice to have a good left footer on a wing. So, I went with Gaff as my other wingman.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll be honest, I don't have any wingmen, but I hate people who don't pick wingmen because I just think of cricket. It's like you're not going to pick 7 opening batsmen, or you're not going to pick 2 middle order batsmen to open the batting in like a team of the year or something. So I don't appreciate it when people get picked out of the position, to be honest, full stop. But I'm doing exactly that. Partly because there weren't too many wingers high in like my Brownlow voting system, and also my knowledge isn't really that good, so I don't even know who plays on the wing most of the time. But my middle six, all right, let's start with my centre bounce squad recept. All right, so you've got Nick Nat, you've got Grundy, you've got Gorn. They're all playing second fiddle to your man Todd Goldstein. Definitely not a beneficiary of playing in the worst team in the comp. Well, second worst. Yeah, he actually racked in votes in the first 10 rounds. Don't reckon he registered a vote in the second half of the season. Then with him in the centre bounce, I've got Cloliver, Cripps, and Neil. Don't worry, Rowie Steele's coming later. And then on the wings, these guys aren't wingers, but I just picked blokes who they kind of can play half forward if you want, but Danger and Boak. But yeah, far from wingman. I 100% accept that. All right, that leads us into the forward six. Brody, do you want to start us off, mate?
Yeah, well, considering I did pick a couple wingmen, I need to sneak a few midfielders into my forward line. So that sort of had a bit of a say in mine. So half forward line, I had Petrarca. He played on ball most of the season, but he actually showed the ability to go forward and kick snags. So had him on one flank. Big Charlie Dixon is centre half forward. Not much needs to be said about him. The focal point of Port's forward line, always creating a contest. Has a huge presence on the ground, so he's the perfect centre half forward type. And then I had Dusty on the other half forward flank. Dusty probably hasn't had as good a year as other seasons, but I feel like we sort of hold that against some of the absolute guns. They're still clearly he's still clearly one of the best in the comp. So even if he hasn't quite been as good as other seasons, he's still in the best team. And then forward pockets, I had Dan Butler. I heard a stat, the number one small forward goals for this season. Is that right, Rowie?
That is right, mate. By one, but he's
number
later.
one pressure player as well. And then I had Big Tomahawk as my full forward. Won the Coleman. He actually played really deep as well a lot of the season. He actually sat full forward like Plugger used to back in the day or whatever. So he was clear full forward. And then Liam Ryan came storming home for me. I would have had maybe Papley, but I thought Liam Ryan actually won the Eagles a couple games late in the season, almost off his own boot. So another, exciting small forward who can do everything. So he filled up my other spot in the forward six.
All right, Rowie.
Yeah, I've got a similar situation. Given I put in Menegola and I guess McRae, I've had to put in a few midfielder forwards into my forward line. So on the first flank, I've got Paddy Dangerfield. I think the weekend's game against the Swans just showed how much of a threat he can be going forward as well as in the midfield. And those type of players are obviously pretty rare. I've got the big Tomahawk at centre half forward. It's him or Dixon. They're both half forward and full forward. So it's just sort of switching there. I've got Hawk there because he's also leading, as well as winning the Coleman, he's also leading the comp in goal assists. So that's obviously a massive achievement. Someone that spends half of his time kicking goals as well. And then Petrarca on the other flank, obviously similar situation to Danger, can be just as big a threat going forward as he is around the ground. And obviously those top players are rare. I've also gone with you, Brody. I've gone Liam Ryan. I think just some of his quarters late in the season were unbelievable. I think he won the Eagles the game in, I think it was the second quarter against the Roos. He had a ridiculous quarter. Then Charlie Dixon, a full forward, just there to just take absolute clunks. And then, Dan Butler in the other pocket. I think his just speed and attack on the opposition defenders and as well as on the ball goes underrated. He's also obviously the leading small forward in the comp. I didn't have him, I think, in my mid-year one. I think someone picked him. It might have been Cameron or someone, but I've got Butler back in there now. I'm loyal to my Saints player. So, that's my forward six.
What are you saying, Pilch?
Half forward line, Petrarca, Dixon, Dangerfield speaks for itself. Full forward line, Tomahawk at full forward. That's an obvious one. And then one of the forward pockets, you boys won't cop this. It's extremely biased, but I've gone with Robbie Gray in the forward pocket. We've seen the abuse that Butters has been copping for making the All-Australian squad, but Robbie Gray was better than Butters in disposals, tackles, goals, contested possessions, score involvements, and score assists this season. And he's had like similar stat lines to previous seasons where he has made the final 22. So he's flown under the radar. And then the other forward pocket was between Liam Ryan, Papley, and Dan Butler. I think I switched it about 5 times, but I ended on Tom Papley purely because I think he's a lot more pivotal to Sydney's forward line than the other two. I think he often has the best defender on him, and he kind of has to do everything himself, and he still scored 26 goals, like only one behind Dan Butler. So, yeah, I went him.
Right, before we get started, I'd like to make a formal apology to all forwards in the league. my
Oh, no.
my Brownlow algorithm, I have to say, did them quite dirty. There's not too many stats that favour forwards over other positions, but I think out of these 6, only 2 are actual forwards. But anyway, all right, the half forward line, yep, same as you, Petrarca, Dixon, Dusty. All right, now we get a little bit saucy. Full forward, I'll get the Tomahawk out of the way. Obvious pick there, but this is where it just gets a little bit stupid. I know he's not even a forward really, but I've got Zorko in a pocket. I think he was pretty decent, but he's obviously like more of a midfielder. But out of my top 50 in the Brownlow, he's basically the most forward, like attacking player, which is saying a bit about my system. But and then next up, this is so bad, but I don't want to pick a second ruckman because I don't see too many teams in the AFL going out with 2 out-and-out ruckmen. So I've gone with someone who can rest forward and do quite a decent job. So I've gone with Rowan Marshall in the pocket. He was actually quite up there in terms of just ruckman. So yeah, I've gone with him mainly just because I had no other forwards really. I'd had to search a bit harder through my list of 300 players here, so I'm not putting in that effort. So Rowan, you're getting the call up, mate. Congratulations, son. And yeah, but I feel bad. I haven't put in enough effort here because I know if I was, a number 4 batsman and they've put in an opening batsman in the number 4 spot, I would be pissed off. So apologies to all AFL players out there listening. But yeah, all right, let's roll through our interchanges. I'll start. I've got Steele, Lions, Hugh Greenwood. Once again, I've just got too many midfielders, so I picked someone who probably could classify as a forward for half the time, so I'll go him. And then this is probably another beneficiary of being in a crap team, but I've gone Luke McDonald. He was actually pretty high up there as a rebounding defender, so I've gone him. I wanted to go Sicily, but yeah, once again, I couldn't pick him after only half of season. Pilch, who's on your bench?
I've just realised I've got Danger at half forward and on the bench, so I'll change him straight to Jared Lyons, just straight swap. So Jared Lyons, Marcus Bontempelli, he's probably a bit stiff not to make the field, and then Cam Guthrie, one of the real underrated players of the entire season. I think he was I wouldn't be surprised if he wins Geelong's best and fairest this season. And lastly, Lockie Whitfield can play literally anywhere on the field, half back, half forward, wing, just ultimate utility and racks them up. So, yep.
Rowie, who's on your pint?
Yeah, similar to Pilch. I've got Bont there. Obviously pretty stiff not to make the field, but he's in there regardless. I have gone Gawn as the second ruck. I think barring 2 injury-affected games and obviously a couple of games missed, his season was ridiculous, like 120 ranking points every game. He's just unbelievable around the ground. I do believe Nat Nui deserves the first ruck spot though. I've got Maynard on there. He just missed my starting 6, but he's in the team. Just his ability to lock down the best forward in the opposition, it just can't go unnoticed. And then I feel very dirty. I've gone Dusty after crossing out Adams because I think Adams had an awesome season, especially during Collingwood's down point. But I've got Dusty in there just because obviously one of the best players in the league. Best players in the league. Looking at it, I probably could take out McRae and put in Adams, but it's submitted. And yeah, so I've got Dusty as that last player. I just don't think I can submit it without him in there. I think he's just that good. So yeah, that's my team done.
Fair play, Brody.
The bench was the hardest for me because I reckon I could have had 8 to 10 blokes like sort of filling the last 4 spots, but I went Danger. I sort of had between Petrarca, Dusty, and Danger as my 2 half forwards. Danger got the flick, which is probably a bit stiff, but anyway. Then I had the Bonts. He had a super season again. It also stands up when it really matters. A lot of the tough, hard, tight Bulldogs games, he got him across the line, so he was a walk-up. I had Clayton Oliver. Now that you've said Jared Lyons, I want to change my vote, but I'll stick with Oliver. Him and Petrarca were awesome in Melbourne's midfield. Really good season. And my last one, as much as I don't like Richmond, I have to respect this bloke, and his name's Dylan Grimes, as my last defender. I mean, he's just a gun, I reckon. He seems to always just stop the opposition. I don't even know how he does it. Sometimes he's fallen over, looks pretty clumsy, but he just does the job. And he's probably a bit underrated by a lot of people, but he's a star, and I had to have him on my last bench spot. Yeah, so that's my team.
Yeah. All those blokes you mentioned, they were all like so close to my side. Pretty mad I couldn't get the Bont in there and Adams as well. Viney and Tom Mitchell were also up there in my standings, but just missed out for me. I don't know why. I just thought of this when you guys were talking about Dangerfield. So I think he made his 6. Well, I think he's made 6 of the last 8 All-Australian squads or something like that. So since I've only came to Victoria in 2014, I believe it was, maybe the end of 2013. So since I've watched the league, for me, Dangerfield and Fife have been the 2 clear standouts as best player in the competition. I think they're the best by quite a long way. If they ended their careers right now, who are you taking? Danger or Fife? Pilch?
Fife.
Any reasons why, or
like it is a bit of a coin flip. I just think Fife has that. He's carried his team when he's like the only man that can do anything, and I'm pretty sure he played out like a preliminary final with a broken leg or something like that. And he's just an absolute warrior. So yeah,
Rowie?
Yeah, I'm going Fife. I think the couple of Brownlows speak for themselves. I just think when fit, he's by a country mile the best player in the comp. I think obviously no disrespect to Danger. I think he's obviously definitely up there, but I think Fife. Just the impact that he's had to Fremantle, and just because I can't find a bloke that doesn't love Fife, even if you don't support Dockers. He's just had such an impact on AFL itself. He's also got better hair than Danger. Love the hair.
Brody, who are you backing in?
It's a tough question. It's line ball. Probably Fife just. You're probably a bit better in the air, like marking forward.
Yeah.
Maybe a slightly better kick. But I tell, like, it's one of those things. Like, if Danger, I don't know, let's say Geelong win the flag and Danger.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Does that change it?
Then maybe that changes it because team success. Yeah. So, yeah, it's very tight. They're the 2 standouts, along with Dusty, probably over the last half a dozen years. They're the top 3 in the comp, and it's up to the Bont and those guys to take it off them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I felt like bringing that up. felt like wondering what you guys were going to say. And then let's finish with our Brownlow medalists. Actually, I've got some of my predictions here, so I feel like just embarrassing myself. My surprise All-Australian selections that I predicted: Toby Green, Ed Langton. I've realised I've gone way too rogue with these. Dan Houston and Connor Rosie. So some of my finest. But I did say Goldie, and although he didn't even make the squad, so he's not a surprise All-Australian, I think he had a better season than people were expecting. Who did you say? Brody, you said McGrath?
Oh, yeah, I did say McGrath.
Yeah. Did he make the squad?
No, he had a good season. Actually,
yeah,
I might ask a question, because why not? Who is everyone's bolter to make next year's All-Australian? Like someone's going to take it by storm. I'll start. I'm going to say Sam Walsh is a lock for the win. Yeah. Bit biased, I know.
Matt Rowell, mate.
To be fair, my answer is going to be just as biased. So,
Well, go for it,
Yeah.
Pilch.
Who are you saying, Pilch?
Zach Butters at half forward or
That's
forward.
fair enough.
Yeah. Well, is he really bolting if he made the squad this year though?
Well, what do you mean by
Well,
bolt?
let's say I don't know, not even in the conversation.
Not even in
Squad or anything.
Oh, okay.
Tom
I
Marshall.
actually don't mind McGrath for that. Would McGrath fit into that category?
Yeah, I reckon for sure.
Yeah,
okay.
Rowie, who are you backing in here?
I'm gonna. Well, I think the obvious choice is Matt Rowell. That's the first name that came to mind. But I'll go for a couple
True.
of Saints boys, particularly defenders. I think playing as a Jordan Ridley-esque role, I reckon he's at an awesome second half of the year. I reckon Nick Caulfield is definitely going to be one to watch. Obviously, very rogue, but I think his second half was awesome. And just a couple, in cases an Andrews goes down or a Darcy Moore goes down or anyone, I think Dougal Howard
Oh,
or Cal Wilkie. They've been some of the best one-on-one defenders in
do.
the comp this year. So I reckon keep an eye out for those three. I reckon one of them might squeeze in.
I can't believe Dougal Howard's turned out to be a stud. Me and Hamish used to go to Port games and genuinely laugh at how bad he was in contests.
He's been one of my most consistent players, so I thank you very much for them.
Yeah,
No worries.
I'm not going to go too in depth in mine. I'm going to say Bolter will be my bolter. I think Noah Bolter.
Ooh.
I think he was only a couple games off Rising Star eligibility, or a couple months. I can't remember. I googled it the other week, and he would have clearly won my Rising Star based on my voting thing. And Jed Anderson, another one. I think he had a bit of a breakout this year.
Yeah.
If North have a bit more success next year, which I probably wouldn't guarantee, I think he might do a bit better. But all right, Brownlow medal. It's the big time. After 18 rounds of logging results, I've come up with a tie, fellas. I'm actually fuming. Locked in 44 votes, so it is out of 5, so it's obviously going to be more than normal. It's Paddy Cripps and Lockie Neal. Tied for the Brownlow medal. Fair play to both of them. Pilch, who are you backing in for the Brownlow medal?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but my heart says Boki, but my head says Neil. Like it's not going to be anyone but Neil.
Yeah, Rowie.
Same dilemma. Heart says Steele. Gut says Neil. I wouldn't be like, I don't think it would be the end of the world if somehow Boak or Steele took it off him, but just because of the shortened season. But I do think Neil will get it, obviously. And I think it'll be interesting to see who comes second and third between those two, or if there's someone else. Just because I think there's no one really to steal votes off Boak and Steele. There's no massive standout in those other two teams to obviously poll as highly as them. But I think that'll be the top three with Neil taking it out.
Yeah, Brody, are you going with Neil as well?
Yeah, stock standard. I mean, I'd love Paddy Cripps to win it based off your algorithm, but I don't even think he'll finish top 3 in our B and F. But yeah, Neil for sure, I think. Second, I reckon you guys said Boak and Steele, but Petrarca is a chance for top 3 as well, I reckon. He's probably the other one. They're probably the top 4, but yeah, it's really who's going to be second that's the most interesting. I think Neil will win by half a dozen votes at least, probably.
Yeah, my top 9, because 10 and 11th are tied, so stuff them. My top 9, just for the sake of reading it out. So I got Cripps and Neil tied on top. Cloliver 1 vote behind. So the inside mids were getting loved by the algorithm. 4th, this is where the voting system's just wrong. But Luke Ryan, he legitimately got 5 votes, like 8 rounds in a row or something for Freo in the middle of the season. Then 5th, I had Danger. 6th was Steele. 7th was Boak. And tied with Boak was actually Maynard, which is pretty surprising in a star-studded Collingwood team to rack up that many votes. And then 9th was Jared Lyons. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Well, none of those awards have been announced yet, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see how our opinions stack up with the experts' opinions. But yeah, that's it. All we've got for you today. Really appreciate all three of you coming on. Appreciated the little chat and looking forward to a couple more AFL episodes in the next month or so. Hopefully you're all available and stuff because I know we're all so busy right now. But yeah, let's go do our quiz.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. See you guys.
Mates come last again.
Thanks.
See you, boys.
Looking forward to the finals.
Yes.